All right. I'd like to call to order the Appointments and Ordinance Committee via WebEx conference system on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 at 5:32 p.m. This meeting is being recorded by the Appointments and Ordinance Committee. If any other present are doing the same, please notify me at this time. Please note that all items listed on this agenda may not be considered or discussed at this meeting and may be addressed at future meetings. Councillor Gwen is here. Councillor Bullock?
Here.
Councillor Forgy?
Here.
Councillor Jarvis?
Here.
Councillor Lapiensky? I do note that President Gilmore is on the call. Could I have a motion to accept the meetings of January 12th?
So moved.
Second, Forgy.
Moved by Jarvis, seconded by Forgy. Any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, we will accept those meetings. Thank you. Minutes. Thank you. We have no public hearings this evening. So let me remind people what is going on tonight. And this is just a good reminder. And I know we have a couple of new counselors joining us for the first time here at A&O. So we're going to follow the agenda as best we can. If you have any discussion for my committee, you don't have to necessarily write in the chat box or anything else. Just talk. It's fine. It's a small committee. It's a subcommittee. It's a talking committee. We will not have any public time at this ordinance. There's no public communication. We have one invited guest, which is David Singer, who has chaired the committee for the charter review. So he stands in to answer questions when we have them. I will remind everybody the process once again. We are not rewriting the charter. We are not adding to the charter. We are reviewing the Charter Review Committee's submission to the council. That's what we do at this meeting. We review the changes. Councillor Forgy is now a full member of this committee. She is also our liaison from, and so was Councillor Gilmore, from the Charter Review Committee. They have the opportunity to bring things forward that were assigned to them during the process. So we will not be recreating the wheel. We will not be rewriting chapter and verse. We're here to review what we were given. We send everything after we make a recommendation. Everything is sent to legal. Legal then reviews what we said to make sure we're in compliance with current charter and Mass General Law. They send back those. At that point, they go to the mayor, and then they see them simultaneously. Then they come back and we put them on the full council agenda. And that's when we vote on any of the recommendations. We are only a recommending board. That's what we do. We make recommendations. We don't make policy. And I ask that anyone that is watching and listening in on the meeting, if you would like to get in touch with me, please send me an email. Remember, there is no public participation in this meeting. I ask that you stay muted if you're not one of my committee. That allows us not to have feedback and side volume. That being said, our first item on our discussion tonight is the option to apply for remote participation for use in city council and subcommittee meetings. I was very happy with what Tammy put together and put in our packets this evening. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. But if you looked through them, Mayor Martin authorized the city to use remote participation in 2015. In 2017, Councillor Maloney and Councillor Mass put a motion forward to opt out of remote participation. So it was authorized by the city, by Mayor Martin, by a executive order, and then opted out by the current council 2 years later. So 15, it was put into play. 17, they opted out. Also, if you looked in the packet under remote participation, there's guidelines of what is acceptable by Mass General Law on what reasons and what modes we can use for remote participation. Before I open it up for discussion to everybody, I would just say that it's quite a different world than we were in 2015 and 2017. We have seen changes with health, and we've seen people that are healthy that are quarantined. We've seen people that have first adjacency quarantines, and that was all unheard of in 2017. I was happy when I looked through the reasons that remote participation is limited to personal illness, personal disability, emergency, military service, or geographic distance. I think all of those categories we've seen in the last year or so. And there have been times personally where right now it's very possible because WebEx allows us to be remote participation. This is remote participation. Right now, if Chris or anyone was on vacation and they brought their iPad with them or their notebook, they could participate. So I'm going to open up thoughts on the council's, looking at accepting remote participation again. Anybody? Councillor Forgy.
Of course. Yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Gwynn, that we've been through a lot the past 2 years. I think the list of reasons why you should be allowed to participate remotely make a lot of sense. And I would like to see us continue with as many options as we possibly can to do the city's business. Just makes more sense, especially with a lot of unknowns out there. So I would be in favor of the motion or the executive order that the mayor that Mayor Martin put together and put out there.
Councillor Bullock, any thoughts?
Remote participation is pretty much a must for me. I work for a national organization, so I assume I'll be resuming travel as soon as deemed safe. And prior to COVID, I was traveling about 40% of the time. So that's a must. I also think it's just super important in order to maintain so that folks who do have disability and are still not able to participate fully and functionally in our world as COVID is right now are able to attend and meet those needs. So yeah, I'm all in favor of keeping remote on board.
I would agree. I would agree with your points there too. The other thing before we let Councillor Jarvis talk, if you look at the procedures, what I liked is it's very outlined. This isn't just, some kind of half thought out process. There is a process. There is a procedure. Chair must announce the name of any member who's participating remotely. Remote participants may vote and may participate in executive session, but must state at the start of any session that no other persons is present or able to hear the discussion. I mean, there are guidelines. This isn't us making it. Obviously, before I would think this was ready for a full council vote, we would have to check once again with our clerk and make sure that there's been no changes to Mass General Law, that there's anything in here. It says acceptable means, telephone, internet, satellite enabled audio or video. And I know one of the problems was with remote participation, once we go back to live meetings, like at the John Zahn Center, that we have the capability of a back and forth, which was the problem. And we don't have the clerk on tonight. So that's so if I'm remote and I'm talking to the meeting, that I also can hear the meeting and talk to the meeting in a process that's acceptable. So we have a few technical, I would say, pieces to make sure are in compliance, but that's how I see it, that we make sure we are following MGL and any other regulation, and that we have the equipment to make it worthwhile. The most frustrating thing could be if one of us was remote or one of us was there and we can't hear what's going on, we can't see what's going on, we can't hear, so, and that would be for members, remote participation for members. Councilor Jarvis?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was really my only concern, was the technology part of it that would be hooked up at the John Zahn Center. I think before we take any action on this, I mean, we can give our recommendation that once that process is in, the technology's in place, then we implement this. I think that would be, I'm not sure how much discussion this is going to have on council floor. It could go back and forth and tabled a couple times. Who knows? I'm definitely for it. And like we spoke before, I don't think I would have used this at the beginning of the year, because being in the condition I was, I probably was not going to attend, no matter if I could or not. I think I would have had bells and whistles going off in the on the monitor, but
that would have been fun, but for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I am in favor of this. And like I said, the one kind of wicket here is the technology, and from what if I understood right, the mayor said equipment was ordered and would be in soon, and Fernando's working diligently on getting everything in place.
So I guess what I would ask, do we want to leave this for discussion and continue it? Or do we want to make a motion that says we're in favor of pursuing remote participation as long as we're in compliance with current statutes and we have the equipment needed to do it correctly?
Yes.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I will try to tackle it. I make the motion that we accept remote participation in regards to, I'm trying to word it right, Dan. That's all.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, remote participation after getting a legal opinion from Mass General Laws, and the technology is in place to do so.
And that point of clarification would be
yes. And what did I miss?
For council members.
Per council, yes. Yep.
I'll second it.
Okay. Now that the motion's on the floor and has been seconded, is there any further discussion? I think we're all on the same page. This doesn't do anything except recommend that we want to pursue it on a more, and then it might come back that we have to rescind the exclusion, but that's not what we made a motion to. We're forwarding. We'll see, and that's what our clerk can tell us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I will forward a positive unanimous recommendation based on the members that were present tonight. Thank you. If this doesn't go forward in the form that we just put it in, because I think there might be some, because there was a motion made and voted for before, we might have to rescind that and all that. And we'll get that from our clerk and find out what the process is. And we might see that again. It might end up on council floor, but that's up to President Gilmore and our clerk when we put together how to go forward. Next would be the mayor's appointments, reappointments. Counselor Forgy, do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
It's on page 16.
Hang on. Okay.
Would you like to make that motion, Counselor?
I would. I will make the motion. Order number fiscal year 22-087. The City Council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council, pursuant to Charter Section 2-10, affirms the following appointments and reappointments by the mayor. Appointments: Fire Station Building Committee, Jim Nguyen, term expires upon project completion. Reappointments: Agricultural Commission, Nathaniel Hussey, term expires December 31st, 2024. Conservation Commission, Fletcher Harrington, term expires December 31st, 2024. And Redevelopment Authority, Charlene Golonka, term expires December 31st, 2024. Majority vote required.
Motion's been made and seconded. I'll open the floor. Any discussion? I will say that we received no emails from anyone concerned with any of these appointments or reappointments. Also, I'll ask that if Jim or Nathaniel or Fletcher or Charlene is on this call and would like to talk to us for a moment, feel free to let me know. And I would recognize you if you had anything you'd like to share with the board.
Yes.
What, is it doing it?
I just heard something. Hit allow again.
Hello.
Oh, you are the best.
Wait.
Are you trying to talk to us? I don't think so. So, Jim, Nathaniel, Fletcher, Charlene, any of the four of you trying to get on the call? All right, I'll open it to my committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, I will send a positive unanimous recommendation for affirmation of the candidates. Once again, from this committee, I'd like to thank all of you that volunteer. 3 of you are reappointments, so you know the drill, and we appreciate you coming back. And we have someone here that's an appointment, so thank you for serving. That's what we do. I mean, that's how we get things done in this community. So we appreciate everybody stepping up. The next piece would be moving down our agenda is to move on to articles that we talked about tonight. Let me see. Here they are. So mayor's appointments and resolutions. The next one is Greenfield City Charter, potential amendments and modified language. So we're on to the final stages of trying to finish our recommendations from the committee that spent time doing this. I would like to say that if anyone is on this call watching, please, there's no public participation in this. I will have you muted during the event if that doesn't happen and someone feels that they want to continue to talk. I will mute you again and then see where we are. But so I please ask everyone to stay, watch along as we move. Remember, we never know which pieces we're going to finish. Some take longer than we did, but we are in the closing. We have some changes to Article 2, and then we have Article 6 and Article 7, and then this project will be ending, and then we can start looking at other things. Councillor Forgy, let's take, also just a point of order. We don't have to take from the table the discussion on Article 2 because we never made a motion. we were discussing Article 228B when we made a motion to table it. We didn't need to make a motion to table it because there was no motion on the floor. Anytime we're in discussion on any of these sections or articles, if we don't make a motion, we can continue discussion at a future meeting if we take no action, just so we know with those pieces. If there's no motion, we don't have to table anything. So, Councillor Forgy, if you remember, we had sent out for a legal opinion on section 2-8. If we made changes to 2-8, it would have affected 3-2, I believe it is. And
Yep.
we took that and realized that we probably can proceed with this with very little change and look at ordinance. But Councillor Forgy, bring us up to date.
Thank you. Yes, we did. There was a letter from the attorney, and he did mention the Article 3, which deals with the executive office powers. When we go back and we look at what the Charter Committee recommended, they did not recommend any change in the language on section on 2-8B. As a matter of fact, they didn't recommend any language change on B, C, or D. The rationale behind this is not necessarily to change the charter language, because that was discrete and distinct. The recommendation that came from the charter, however, was that the issue that arose as to whose employee the clerk actually is should be included in a discussion on an ordinance level. So there was no change in language in the charter, and a recommendation that we address the issues that were raised and spoken about in the legal opinion. We should do that in ordinance. So there are no changes to this section.
All right. That being said, 2-8B will stay as is in the charter with no modification, and we will take up the pieces in charter, in ordinance if they need to be tweaked. And remember, for those of you that do that, the very minor and major and specific detail work is done in ordinance. Things that can change, things like, things to deal with, numbers and timing and such like that. A lot of that can be done by ordinance, because this is a permanent document when we do stuff with that. So that being said, does any of the other committee have any opinion on 2-8B, or shall we move on? All right, we're going to move on. No action required. Article 6, Board of License Commissioners. Councillor Forgy.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation of the Charter Committee was that there would be no language change to section 6-9A or B. The issue was much like we spoke of in 2-8, which is in the past, under previous form of government, the Board of Licensing Commissioners were the Board of Selectmen, and they were elected officials, so they had elected authority. Now that we have changed to a mayoral form of government, it is the mayor who actually appoints the Board of Commissioners. And as such, they do not enjoy the same authority as an elected official. That lies with the person who is in the mayor's position. And so once again, the committee recommended that there be an ordinance taken up that actually looks at specifically outlining the details of powers, duties, and limitations of the licensing commission to ensure that there is public confidence in the licensing commission. And once again, no language change, but a recommendation for an ordinance to be pursued.
Once again, is there any one on the committee that would anything further on this? That was also my interpretation, was if this would be something that we would discuss with the mayor's office, and someone would bring forward an ordinance if we wanted to detail and look at that authority. Is there anyone else that has any comment on that tonight? Seeing none, we will move forward. Section 6.9 requires no change, no vote. Now we're going to go back to 6.11. If you recall, we went through Public Safety Commission. 6.11 even we went through. The only piece that we had left on the presentation was 6.11E. And very similar to the theme of this evening, as we get into these pieces, Councillor Forgy, 6.11E, please.
Thank you. Just give me a second. I have so many papers here.
Oh, that's right.
All right. It'll just take me a moment to find the paperwork. In essence, in essence, this was basically discussed. The only language that was not agreed upon and everything else was the language in regard to a citizens review board. However, there is language that, just a second here. Would you please excuse me for a minute? I'm terribly sorry here.
No problem. I would like to welcome David Singer to the meeting. Hello, David. We are on 6.11. We've moved through the Article 2 and 6.9, both of those going to ordinance versus change as recommended. A lot of these in this lower section that need some work, we're going to have a common theme where they're going to ordinance as we get into some of these, as that was the recommendation. As always, David, if you feel the need or I look panicked, please, please talk to us. It would be great. Councilor Forgy is looking at the moment for 6.11E because in similar circumstance, it was the citizens board that we're going to discuss. Councillor Forgy, if you can't find your notes on that piece, we could go over it, but whatever you choose.
Well, could we move on to Board of Health?
Yeah.
16 at this point.
Any objection from my committee to move on to 6.16 at the moment? Seeing none. Board of Health, 6.16, Councillor Forgy.
Once again, we did hear from citizens and a number of citizens in regard to the Board of Health. Actually, the committee recommended that there be a council discussion on Board of Health, and there was no suggested language changes. Council discussion could also include a possible ordinance in this regard. The only piece that I would feel comfortable with doing at this point is in section 6.16 Board of Health. It does say, this would be section, let me see, this would be section B. It says Board of Health shall have all powers of all other boards of health in the Commonwealth and all powers provided by general law, and whatever powers granted to it by the city council. I would like to add to general law to say Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 30, which really is in law the piece that defines and creates the Board of Health. So I just want that instead of saying general laws, I just want it clarified that it's Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 30. That's all I'm asking for.
Is there any discussion from anyone else? This is kind of a maintenance piece to make sure we're redefining Mass General Law to make sure that we're identifying the health components. David, was that a hello? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for your summary. The conversation, there was a member of the public who asked that the Board of Health director be hired and supervised by the Board of Health. And upon considering it, the Charter Committee has recommended that not be the case, at least from their point of view. It's up to the council to decide differently. And that the health director be under the supervision and control of the mayor, which is where it stands now. It's not so clear in the charter or in our ordinances how exactly how specifically the relationship exists between the health director and the mayor and the Board of Health. So I would suggest that the A&O have an undertaking to get to the bottom of that and maybe draft an ordinance that makes it clearer. It's silent. So that was the upshot of it. We did listen, and but we felt that it's our recommendation, again, it's only recommendation, that the mayor be the one who appoints the Board of Health, the director, just like the mayor appoints all other persons in the from her executive or his or her executive position. So
all right, I would agree that I think we need to look at this or work on that definition or defining piece, but that is ordinance, that is not charter once again. David?
And I'm sorry I missed the meeting. I thought it was at 6, so I apologize. On the licensing commission, I don't know what was said, but again, the charter commission that drafted the charter took it upon themselves to just move the language from the charter for the town of Greenfield to the city charter, saying that the licensing commissioners had the same powers and duties as the select board. But it's a little different. So I think it's important for you also to have an undertaking and just try to better define, what the roles and responsibilities are of the licensing commission from the point of view of the city of Greenfield, not just from a point of view of a town government.
We made no changes to 6.9, and we recommended, or we felt that we would pursue that by ordinance. As recommended. We'll take a look at that 6.9 through cooperation with the mayor's office and figure out and we realized it was, once again, we explained that it was taken from when we had selectmen. The selectmen were the licensed commissioners, so they were an elected authority then, and then it changed, but the language.
Now they're appointed, so the appointing part feels a little
Correct.
bit like somebody should define what they do.
So we're going to hear, like I said, that theme is running strong tonight of going to ordinance to define. So seeing that, Councilor Forgy, are you there?
Yeah, I am still here, but
I need you to make a motion.
Yeah.
For 616 section B to add the Mass General Law portion that you asked. And then we'll have discussion.
Can I make a suggestion, Councilor Forgy?
yes, sure.
Just say including but not limited to that section. So that in case you've left out some section, at least it's not, you haven't pigeonholed yourself. So what lawyers like to do is say including but not limited.
Okay.
Thank you.
You said included but not limited to.
So if you want to
Yes.
say including but not limited to chapter 111, section
30.
Yeah.
MGL, yes.
So in other words, provided by the general laws, comma, including but not limited to chapter 111, section 30, and whatever powers are granted to it by the city council. That's what I would say.
Okay, so I will make a motion. This will be for 616, section D. And it shall read as follows, I hope. The Board of Health shall have all those powers of all other boards of health in this Commonwealth, and all powers provided but not limited.
No, provided by the general laws, comma,
Provided by the general laws, comma,
including but not
included
limited to.
but not limited to
Thank you.
Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 30. And then it says, and whatever powers are granted to it by the city council.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay,
The motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second, Jarvis.
Motion's been made and seconded. So I'll open this up once again for discussion before we move it to vote. So we are just redefining and making sure that we talk about what MGL we're looking for. Any other discussion on that? Questions? Seeing none. All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, we'll send a positive unanimous recommendation based on the members present tonight. That brings us to Article 7. Unless Councillor Forgy, 611E.
Give me one more minute.
That's all right. I'm not rushing you. I just don't want to, I try to stay in order as we know, except for when we took on some pieces that were going to take major chunks of the meeting.
What's on the table with 611E?
611E, where we reviewed all of 611E is going to have a portion that goes to an ordinance to define, and that's what she wrote and got rid of that language that was submitted. So we're just waiting for that clarification, but she shuffled it somewhere. So
I did file it somewhere under F for fiddle faddle or something like that.
so
I can address that if you want at this particular moment. We can move forward from there.
okay.
Okay. So on item E, it says that the commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning, and the committee itself discussed at length whether the charter regarding citizen complaints adequately addressed citizen concerns and grievances regarding the infringement of their civil rights and, by local law enforcement. The committee recommends a study. Oh, God. The committee recommends a study be commissioned to determine how the powers and duties could be expanded, or if an independent review board should be created. So I think E should read, the commission shall review written complaints made by the public, and then concerning the operations of public safety departments and the conduct of employees of all departments.
So are we
I'll
changing?
make a motion. I will make a
No,
motion.
are we changing language there?
No, we're not. Actually, we're alleviating a little bit. We're going to go with E. The commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning the Nope, there's no language change except for the word both. It should
So
be
you-
all
so you're-
public
So
safety.
you're adding the word both. Is that the only change to that piece that we're considering at the moment?
It should read as follows. The commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning the operation of public safety departments and the conduct of employees of all departments. That's the motion. And that is a language change.
Okay. Are you making that motion?
I am making that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second on the motion? And then we can have discussion.
I will second it so we can have discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so right now, it's written in the charter that the commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning. And then what I had originally intended to do was to list out those concerns. But if you follow the charter goes on to say, it says made by the public concerning, colon, all right, the operations of the police and fire departments and the conduct of employees of both. Well, this Public Safety Commission has jurisdiction over broadening public safety, including dispatch, just like the other language in this that we took up. It's not adding anything new to the charter. It's clarifying again the operation of public safety departments and the conduct of all departments.
Counselor Jarvis?
Yeah. Should we just because it doesn't, I think all kind of muddies it where it takes in all the departments of the city of Greenfield.
No.
Let
No,
me finish first.
Yeah.
sorry,
Go ahead.
I apologize.
Counselor Jarvis, can you-
Okay. Just because I understand that it's under the public safety section of the charter. I'm just wondering, my question was, should we just say dispatch, fire and police? Seeing that that's all that they handle right now, because fire takes an EMS that we run as a backup, and the fire and dispatch, that's all they handle for emergency departments under public safety.
So
So I was just wondering if we should just say dispatch instead of all. That's all I was going to suggest.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I am just looking for consistency with the language that we already voted on. So when we were voting on, for instance, let me see, this would be Public Safety Commission, powers and powers and duties. It was item D. The commission shall assist the mayor and the oversight of all departments, and the departments were spelled out as fire, police, emergency management, and dispatch, including coordination of the administration of all departments with one another. So I want to just pick up that language again, because we voted that through in the other parts of this article, and I think the language needs to be consistent.
So would you?
I got that now. Thank you.
So you would add
Okay.
all four of them, or you would just use the word all?
I would use just the word all, but it would have to be prefaced in the beginning of the sentence. It would say the operation of public safety departments.
Is it already in there?
No, right now it just says police and fire.
So that would be an amendment if we're going to change that.
Right. Public safety departments and the conduct of all and the conduct of employees you're right, Ed. It could be easier to say those departments instead of all departments.
Those, I think, also could alleviate what Councilor Jarvis recommended, which was we're not talking about DPW. We're talking about those
Right.
departments. Yeah.
Right. So I think I think the language in E, to wrap this whole section up, we should keep the first sentence in E. The commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning, and I wouldn't put the colon there. I would just go on and say the operation of the public safety departments and the conduct of employees of those departments. And then that would wrap this whole article up, and we can deal with the Citizens Review Board through an ordinance.
I will ask that you and Councillor Jarvis rescind your motion and we start again.
Okay, I rescind it.
So moved. I rescind
Rescind your second? Okay.
Yep.
Let's start over. Councillor Bullock, do you have any other comments on this piece as far as what Councillor Forgy just read?
No, not about what you just read.
Okay.
I do have some questions in general about this issue.
Sure. So let's do this. Let her make the new motion, and then we have to have this. And then if we get a second, then we can have discussion again. And I will recognize you, and we'll make sure that we've either covered or where we're going with your concern. Councillor Forgy, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to amend section E.
No amend. You're just making a motion.
Motion. This would be to section E shall read as follows. The commission shall review written complaints made by the public concerning the operation of the public safety departments and the conduct of employees of those departments.
Seconded, Jarvis.
The motion's been made and seconded. Okay, now we'll open it for discussion.
Okay.
Councillor Bullock, we have an advantage here only because we took on this, prior to you joining me. So I have no problem reviewing anything that would make that you wrap your thoughts around this. So please go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of looking for clarification on. So was the proposal that the review board was written into the charter?
That was.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Councillor.
I'm sorry.
No, this was your baby. Go right ahead. You presented it, so.
Yes, this was all the Article 6s. That was all my assignment on the Charter Commission. And on public safety, I had included as part of charter language a proposal that the Public Safety Committee could organize itself into a more formal review board, citizens review board piece. When we all sat down to discuss this, when we were dealing with section 611 and all the different pieces, we got through most of those language changes and everything else, but it was discussed and it was thought that a better option for the Citizens Review Board would be through ordinance rather than through charter. Charter is the constitutional piece, so it's appropriate that it amends, that it says something about citizen complaints, but what that infrastructure and what that review board looks like would be in an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Okay.
We in our last meeting when we went through section 6, we had the joint chiefs all present, and they obviously were concerned with their individual departments and such as we are getting into review, because no one likes to be reviewed and no one likes to be, but they were very forthcoming and talked about what the state has implemented. But we still feel that all those detail pieces are a longer project that really should come up as an ordinance. And Councillor Forgy, who had drafted all the language, agreed that she would take a look at it and get back to us. And that was the reason that we're going to change language to define it, but leave those pieces to ordinance. Councillor Jarvis, any discussion? Anybody else? All those in favor of 611E as read?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, we will send a positive unanimous recommendation for all of those present. Councilor Forgy, before we move on to 7, thank you for your work prior to being on this committee, in all your work, especially on section 6 and the pieces you put in there. And the ordinance pieces will keep us busy for
I think
quite a
so.
long time.
I
But
think you're right.
that was the intention. And then we can start taking a look at it. And those can be brought forward by any counselor, you know what I mean, that wants to work on any of these ordinances. If someone has an opinion and they, if Councilor Bullock wanted to take on a piece of the public safety, that's available. That's what council does. We take it, we look at it, we work with it, we get the legal opinion, and we bring something forward. And there's a lot of opportunity after the Charter Review Commission did that for us. So that's where we are. Article 7, election-related matters. There are 4 pieces here that we're going to take a look at. A lot of them are going to require different procedures, and we'll go from there. Councilor Singer, former Councilor Singer, is here again, who worked on this section, correct, David? From the Charter Review Committee? Okay. Yes. Councilor Forgy, you'll still make presentations as we discussed, and then we will let, if we need David, he will answer questions for us. So 7-2, preliminary election. This section dealt with,
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I got it.
All right.
All right, so 7-2 was preliminary election. There was, let me just back up a little bit here. In examining preliminary elections, section 7.2, the committee itself, there was a written request that the city consider changing its form of election to ranked choice voting. So we did have a ballot referendum that failed to change state and federal elections in Massachusetts to ranked choice voting. The city of Greenfield voted 55-42 to support ranked choice voting. And home rule provides an opportunity for Greenfield to initiate this type of voting for its local elections. There are also many residents that were interested in doing this. The bottom line that the committee finally decided upon was that in order to make, I'll read this, in order to make the change from current election process to ranked choice voting, the city must follow procedures outlined in Mass General Law, Chapter 43B, Section 10A. If the will of the public and/or the council is to make the change, then a charter commission, not committee, a commission, which is a commission is elected, that would be elected representation from voters in Greenfield, needs to be formed and the resulting determination to be put before the voters at the next possible election. The committee does not make a recommendation on this issue, as this will be up to a charter commission and the voters who decide after a long and detailed process of education and debate. It's complex because it's not adopted on a state level, and even if we were going to do it, we would still, and change the charter to reflect it, it would be governed by Chapter 43, Section 10A. And so there was no recommendation coming forward on preliminary elections, ranked choice voting.
Let me jump in here. Thank you, Councilor Forgy. The big thing with this is for this review committee, which which our duties are, I explained earlier. If this was going to be taken on, it would not be on the charter changes at this time. It can't be. It has to come up with a situation where we would have to elect a committee. The committee would then look at it. They would follow the procedures and the rules, and then based on what they come forward, that would eventually go to a public situation. So in this moment, there's nothing to change in the charter because there's no language that would change. Once we adapted this, if someone took this on, in the last go round of the council, there was no immediate attention to this. No one, was anxious to bring it forward, as Massachusetts doesn't have it. David.
Oh, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to.
No, that's all right. My thoughts were a bit rambly.
No. I think that in the last mayoral election, we had a preliminary election, and then we had a what is it called?
A primary.
We had the primary, and then afterwards there was a write-in ballot, which is
Right.
fine. But the charter doesn't really anticipate that. And so what the charter tried to do is to make each election winner win a majority of the votes. So when you have more than 2 people running, you don't have that. So with a strong write-in candidate, which is fine, we ended up with a plurality vote, not a majority vote. And when you do ranked choice voting, that's one way of settling that issue, which is to have where you wind it down until the person wins by a clear majority. So we didn't tackle the changing the primary system, but we had enough people that were interested in the ranked choice voting. I know people were looking to see if New York City, for example, if it worked in that city. And so, but there is a problem. Not a problem, which is that the charter tried to set up a system where the winners would take a clear majority. And with the strong write-ins that are happening now, which was unanticipated, you're going to get plurality. You're going to get winners that win by plurality, not by majority. So I don't know whether that's a problem or not, but that's not what the charter was written. The charter was written to avoid that. So that piece of the charter doesn't seem to be, quote, working, but we didn't come up with a solution to the preliminary elections. We listened to the ranked choice voting as a way of maybe solving the problem in a different way, but it will take time and effort to do that.
And it's also 7-2 deals specifically with preliminary election, that
Correct.
piece that we're looking at.
Correct.
So that wouldn't come. Councilor Jarvis.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts on this is one, it's going to take a long time to do. It's not something that isn't going to happen now. It's not going to change before the next charter. It'll be the next charter review when it happens. And the problem with my only concern is the cost of ranked choice voting. Is that when you have the runoff, you have to have another election, correct?
No.
If you have 4 people running and you don't have a clear and decisive.
No, what you do is you have one election and you have a system of counting votes, and so it's the system of counting votes that has to be changed. At the end, you will get a winner. You will get a winner from the voting, but you're voting for more than one person. You have the option to vote for more than one person, whereas we don't have that today. And what today is that you have a preliminary election. So you have 1, 2, 3 people running. One gets knocked off. Now you have 2 people running. That person should get a winner, but the write-ins have become very strong candidates. And so the system that we have now doesn't anticipate. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that it doesn't anticipate the strength of a write-in, so you can't get a majority winner when you have a strong write-in.
But am I correct or am I wrong? A write-in can jump into the race after the preliminary has happened.
Correct.
Yes.
So you're going to end up with 3 people anyways.
Yeah, but not in ranked choice. In ranked choice, there's no
doesn't allow
preliminary
it?
election. There's no preliminary election. David, Ed, Chris, Dan, we all run. Marion, we all run. People rank their votings, and if there's not a clear majority after the first count, then you knock out the lowest person, and you count again, and you count again until you
Okay.
get to the end.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I mean,
See, that's why that's the educational part of this.
But you should read, Amherst has actually done a very good charter study, and it's cited in the charter report. You might want to read it. They've gone to ranked choice voting.
I think this is a much bigger issue. It's not
Big,
going to
big
be handled under 7-2 preliminary election because we know there's flaws with ranked choice. You can have your top two vote getters split the votes, and the third person ends up moving to the top. And
It could be. I don't know enough about it.
It becomes an issue. That happens in the Cy Young Award. So we need to really take a look at this, and that's not it. So if I'm correct, Councilor Forgy, 7-2 has no recommended changes, correct?
Correct.
Councilor Bullock, anything on this? Okay, and don't feel that I'm putting you on the spot. I just don't want to overlook you as I gab along. I don't want you to feel like I left you out. So 7-2, no change at this time. I would say that that can be looked at by full council at any point if it becomes something that people want to tackle. No action on 7-2. That moves us to 7-7, citizen initiative measure. Let me talk about this for a moment. Does anyone mind if I start this one? Because I think we're all aware. So 7-7 and 7-8, although they are different, were brought up, along the same lines. As we know, we followed the procedure for 7-8. Which was going to ballot, and my majority vote, we didn't change the charter at all. It just didn't change. It stayed the same. There was a number that was put out, then there was a compromise came up with, and then it was voted, and the vote was no change. So 7-8, after all of that process, is exactly what it was in the charter after the revision 10 years ago. One of the impressions is that the public wanted to leave it the way it was. That was the impression, was to leave 7-8 like it was. This was a dividing topic. The public spoke, and I believe our best course would is to listen and leave 7-7 with no change, and move forward. 7-7 was there. It was working. The majority of the public said, leave 7-8 like it was. When we had our public hearing, we had everyone talk on 7-8. 7-7 had no one that referred to 7-7. David, hold on for a second. So I think 7-7 should follow 7-8 and have no change. Leave it as the charter intended and move forward. David, would you agree?
I agree.
Thought to make them the same was based on that piece. So that's my that's what I believe. That's what I think would be in the best interest and stop the division that we have. Any discussion on this from this committee? Seeing anyone else? Seeing none, 7-7, we will take no action. We will move forward. 7-9, Councilor Forgy, ineligible measures.
There's no change.
There's no changes to that?
No.
There was no recommendations? Well, that makes that good. With no changes, we move forward. 7-12, recall elections.
Chris, do you mind?
Oh, no, not at all.
Excuse
Please
me,
go
Councilor
ahead.
Forgy, do you mind?
I'm happy for the support. Thank you.
In B, I mean, I've read it over a couple of times. I think it's clear, but maybe we need to make it a little clearer.
Is that recall elections? Are you talking
Yeah,
about?
we have we have two categories of counselors or officers. Sometimes people are elected at large and sometimes people are elected by precinct. So if you're an at-large person, then it takes 500 signatures to begin to get the name on the ballot for recall. But if it's a precinct person, like a counselor, I think that's the only one because school committee is at large. Then it only takes 100 people, but it should be 100 people within the precinct, not 100 people in the community. So although the two sentences, 1 and 3, kind of are written in a way that I think you could interpret what I just said, we just recommended that maybe you should clarify after the word 100 or more voters, it's say of an individual precinct. So it's clear that that the voters come from the individual precinct, not from the city at large.
Councilor Forgy, I think you had written some language for that piece when this was discussed.
Yes.
And what was that? Did you want to make it in a form of a motion or just discussion?
Yeah, I could make it in form of a motion. There's actually the second piece of this sentence is going to need a little cleaning. It's just a grammar piece, but so I'll make a motion that the last sentence of section, that would be section 7-12B, read 100 parentheses, the number 100 or more voters of an individual precinct may file with the Board of Registrars an affidavit containing the name of the individual precinct elected officer sought to be recalled and a statement for the grounds of the recall. Now, it may be too many individual precincts. Okay, let's go back again. 100 or more voters of an individual precinct may file with the Board of Registrar voters, an affidavit containing the name of, take the "the" out, and it should be "their."
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Individual precinct elected officer sought to be recalled and a statement for the grounds of recall. That's the motion.
Can I have that seconded? Councilor Bullock, was that a second?
Seconded.
Okay, that motion's been made and seconded. A discussion, Councilor Forgy. I think a re-explanation of what we're doing.
Basically, as David Singer explained, there was, it is appropriate for a distinction to be made between elected officials that represent a precinct and those 4 individuals that are counselors at large. And so it's appropriate that if you're a counselor at large, you have everybody in the city can ask for your recall. But if you are a counselor in your precinct, it needs to come from the people that elected you. So it wouldn't be fair if, say, you were a counselor in precinct 1 and the majority of people that signed your recall petition were from, 2 and 3, precincts 2 and 3. That is not fair because 2 and 3 did not elect you. The people in 1 elected you. So that's the distinction that is trying to be made in this, which is a good one. I agree with this distinction. How's that, David? Did I get that right?
Yes, just so the public that's watching, it's not only counselors that can be recalled, it's any persons that are elected. So
Thank you.
It depends on whether you're elected by at large or you're elected by precinct.
Yeah, any at large.
That's the distinction.
The
It could be a
definition-
school committee person, it could be a trustee of the foundation, it could be a lot of, anybody who's an elected official can be recalled, but it wasn't clear enough, I didn't think. So that, hopefully this makes it clearer. But yes, the example that Councilor Forgy used is correct about counselors, but a school committee member, you know, they're
It's everybody.
anyone elected.
The biggest distinguishing factor there is we have very few offices besides council that are precinct oriented.
You're right.
I mean, they could come up, but
That's
precinct counselors was the problem. You know, how it was written before is the precinct 2 counselor could be recalled with not a single vote from precinct 2.
correct.
That could happen the way it was if it was from within the municipality. So any other discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, we'll send a positive unanimous recommendation for those members present this evening. Well, that is everything that we had to do with charter review. Is everyone in favor of forwarding the recommendations that we made for ordinance and no change to go to council to move forward before we kind of end this? Councilor Forgy?
I just think that for the benefit of the public, in all the other sections of 7:12, there's no change. That's what I'd like to say. There's no language change at all.
Oh, other than 712B, which is what
Correct.
we just voted on. Okay.
That's correct. There's no other language change.
Okay, there's nothing else in 712, and those were the only sections that had anything written on them within 7. So we've covered 6. We have 3 to 4 items that we are going to explore in ordinance, and those pieces that needed recommended no change based on the opinion of the Charter Review Committee will forward. There'll be no action. Any clarification on that? Any questions from this committee? We are comfortable with the recommendations that we made. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
New business. Anything? Old business. Seeing none. I just would like to once again thank the Charter Review Committee for 2 years plus worth of diligence and work. David, I don't think it's over yet, but I appreciate everything as we take pieces of this in ordinance and things come back up. I would always love your expertise and your willingness to help us, get through this. Sometimes it takes a lawyer to understand language, and I appreciate that. Retired.
Thank you.
All right. Our next meeting is March 9th, 22, at the City Hall meeting room or WebEx if required. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. It has, meeting is adjourned at 6:45 p.m. Thank you for all of your help during this, and I am available. Good night.